Thank you, Tilly, for that fine speech and proposition of the motion. Joining us now in opposition, order. Joining us now in opposition, we are joined by Professor Bruce Ackerman. Bruce is a Sterling Professor of Law and Political Science at Yale and the author of 19 books in political philosophy, constitutional law, and public policy. He is commander of the French Order of Merit, a member of the American Law Institute, and the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Bruce, you have the ears of the House.
Thank you. Americans have betrayed the Founding Fathers on many past occasions. They have done so, however, by using the Founders' Revolution against George III as a model for their own efforts to discredit Washington, those in power in Washington, D.C. The Founders' compromise with slavery served as the principal target for 50 years of revolutionary mobilization before Lincoln's election. Lincoln didn't just get elected. It was a bottom-up movement of committed radicals, Republicans, who are not only committed to end racial injustice, but committed to economic justice and gender justice. This was a combined movement. So, for example, the principal draftsmen and pushers of the 13th Amendment and 14th and 15th were not the president. It was Thaddeus Stevens. Thaddeus Stevens is publicly married to a black woman from the 1840s, way before he gets elected. He's walking around, and it's illegal in Pennsylvania to marry interracially. To hell with you. To hell with you, he says. And he is leading a bottom-up movement. What about in the Senate? William Seward. Who is William Seward? He, in 1856-57, goes on the floor of the Senate and condemns this Dred Scott compromise with slavery, and another senator beats him almost to death. This is not evolution in the British mode. In 1876, by 1876, however, it was clear that the paper documents of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments guaranteeing the right to vote, equal protection, and the like for blacks, were not going to get anywhere in the real world without another generation or two of mobilized struggle. But what happens is that the movement continues and shifts to a gender equality and, for present purposes, economic exploitation. The object of the next decisive move were the robber barons of the railroads. And I'll talk about that later in my remarks. However, the counter-movement for free market capitalism was equally powerful. And these movements, and they are movements for free market capitalism, not just merely, capitalist pigs, comrade. There were labor unions that were on the one hand, but then there were genuine civic associations for free enterprise. These are struggling with one another until Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. And here we have another decisive American revolution. It doesn't appear in the text of the Constitution. Well, To get ratified in the text of the Constitution, you not only need 2/3 votes in both houses, but 3/4 of the states. Just think about that. 3/4 of the states. We'll get back to some numbers, but I want to sketch out my basic argument first. It took another generation after the struggle over the Supreme Court and court packing and all of that generates is the repudiation of Lochner against New York as a constitutional principle. And the construction of the activist regulatory state. The next generation, as a result, once again, after the war, of a political movement, moved beyond the egalitarian principles of the New Deal to the Civil Rights Revolution. Kennedy is shot. Lyndon Johnson gets in there. And actually, Lyndon Johnson is a, wheeler-dealer in Washington. He isn't a revolutionary leader. How does he get things through? A guy named Martin Luther King. March on Washington. This is what, it was a happy coincidence, you see, because here is this wheeler-dealer, Johnson, who knew all the people in Washington. He was the majority leader of the Senate before the assassination. And then we have this March on Washington, which I should tell you, because I'm in the dark ages, I was on. But the next generation, after these, generation after generation, after 1876 through 1980, we see revolutionary repudiations of one or another element of the old regime. Then we have Ronald Reagan, who begins a revolutionary repudiation of the New Deal and the Civil Rights Revolution. But he doesn't actually assault the fundamental principles. He just asserts that there is a danger of over-centralized dictatorship and there is a cutback. But this precipitates a libertarian movement. It is not merely the elite in the Heritage Society. It is millions of Americans who are mobilizing against the New Deal revolution in MAGA. In a word, Trump is trying to become the Franklin Delano Roosevelt of the 21st century. Just as Roosevelt repudiated the free market capitalist dimensions of the 19th century, so too he is very self-consciously, and everybody sees this, trying to repudiate the activist regulatory state of Franklin Roosevelt. But there's, of course, a big difference. Roosevelt not only carried 46 of 48 states in gaining re-election in 1936, but New Deal Democrats overwhelmed their congressional opponents, leaving only 88 Republicans in the House. 88 Republicans in the House out of 435. And 17 Republicans in the Senate. Trump's election pales by comparison. As a consequence, he's trying to achieve his super presidential ambitions by issuing hundreds of unilateral executive orders on different fronts. Given time limitations, however, I'll be devoting my remaining minutes to Trump's assault on a host of independent agencies that play key decision-making roles in American government. These range from the Federal Reserve Board to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, to the Central Intelligence Agency, to the Social Security Administration, to the National Science Foundation, to name only a few. In 1935, moreover, a unanimous Supreme Court upheld the Congress's, upheld the Congress's constitutional authority to insulate independent agencies from presidential command and control. Right now, there are two cases in which the Supreme Court is going to hear Humphrey's executor, this case, whether it should be overruled. And what I want to just tell you is that this is an effort to repudiate the first great achievement against the robber barons of the 19th century, which under Grover Cleveland served as a precedent that inspired every single president from Theodore Roosevelt throughout the 20th century to build on this example. What is the problem, the robber barons? The robber barons are using their monopoly power to strip the economic returns of laborers and farmers throughout the United States. And what happens in 1886 is the creation of the first independent agency with the scientific expertise to analyze these issues. Or whether, because of command of the statute, is the rates have to be fair and reasonable rather than monopolistic. How do you do that? Well, it requires a special staff of expert economists who are not manipulated either by the president, who's in power, or the railroad monopolists. In order to do that, they create very self-consciously an independent agency which is organized very self-consciously in ways, if you like, I can explain in the question and answers, to prevent this transformation of this expert agency into a pawn of either the sitting president or the monopoly capitalists. And this is the precedent that is the foundation for, let's say, the Food and Drug Administration of Teddy Roosevelt, or the FTC and the Federal Reserve of Woodrow Wilson, which are being challenged in the next couple of months. And the court is being invited to repudiate a development of 150 years of American history, affirmed by bipartisan Democrats and Republican administrations consistently throughout this period. Thank you.